Every veteran has a story of sacrifice, courage, humor, and heartache. Each week, Veteran Story Hour captures these remarkable stories firsthand in the voices of those who've served. Recorded live from the weekly Friday brunch in the Salute of Virginia studio in Waynesboro, this is more than a podcast. It's a living history, preserving the legacy of America's heroes. You're listening to Veteran Story Hour, Voices of Valor, presented by Salute of Virginia. Let's begin. Somewhere in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, a few hundred feet below the surface, a kid from Waynesboro, Virginia, is sitting in the dark with headphones on, staring at a green waterfall of data, listening to nothing. Days of nothing. And then a tone, 2 seconds. Clear as a phone ringing in an empty house, and then gone, to never be heard again. Our next guest wanted to be a PE teacher. That was the plan. Hand out basketballs, wear sweatpants, and collect a check. Then, a dad's divorce killed the college fund, and 9/11 happened while he was driving a forklift at a lumber yard. 3 months later, he's sitting across from a Navy recruiter who says 2 words: submarine pay. 5 years, 7 patrols, a ballistic missile submarine carrying a payload that could reach anywhere on Earth in under an hour. His crew was the 3rd most powerful entity in the world, behind just the United States and Russia. But when he came home, his first job paid $100 a pop to install glass break detectors in people's garages. This is the story of what it sounds like at the bottom of the ocean, and what it sounds like when no one's listening for you on the way back up. Ladies and gentlemen, Chris Martin.
Okay, so my name is Christopher Martin. I go by Chris. Was born and raised in Waynesboro, lived in Waynesboro until I left for the Navy when I was 19. Graduated from Stuart Straft High School, even though I lived in Waynesboro. I was in the county portion of Waynesboro. So went to Augusta County School. Graduated with honors from high school. Had plans to go to college and do the college route. And believe it or not, when I graduated high school, I wanted to be a PE teacher.
Hold on. Christopher.
Yes.
Why in the world would your the goal, right? PE, come on. PE teacher is not what somebody's like,
so,
you know what, one day, Dad, I want to be a PE teacher.
Right.
I'm going to teach that kid to climb a rope.
I'm going
to
wear too high of pants.
So at Stuart Straft, we had this coach, and I don't think he's there anymore, but I just thought that he had the easiest job of anyone I've ever met.
Okay.
And handing out basketballs and just, okay, go run track for half an hour or whatever, and we'll come back in, and that's that, you know? And then at the end of the day, you go home, you get a paycheck, and you did nothing, basically. You watched, kids play basketball all day. So not that was,
I'm understanding now.
The driving force, but like, it just seemed like a cool job. Like, hey, I can show up to work. I can, wear sweatpants all day and all that good stuff. And at the end of the day, I'm getting paid for it. So a PE teacher just seemed to be like the best job.
That makes more sense.
Right.
Well, yeah. I mean, I remember our strength and conditioning coach for high school. I mean, he was our football coach, and that's all he did was he wore like a hoodie and sweatpants all the time, sat in the weight room and watched everybody work out, and was like, okay, well, I don't feel like watching y'all today. Watch Remember the Titans.
Right. Right.
He'd pull a TV in the wrestling room and you'd watch a movie.
And it's no different than I've talked to several teenagers before, and it's like, I had one kid, he would love to do this to teachers all the time. He'd be like, somebody would be like, well, what do you want to do when you grow up? And he's like, I want to work at McDonald's. Because he just knew that would get a rise at him, but it was the same idea. So, all right. Yeah. So you saw the example, PE teacher, living the life.
Living the life, man.
As far as 16, 17-year-old Chris is concerned in Stuarts Draft.
Right. So graduate high school, had plans to go to college. Well, my senior year of high school, my father gets divorced. And, coming a little background about my family, I come from a divorced household. My parents split when I was, I think, 3 or 4. So lived with mom and visited dad every other weekend until from like age 4 until I graduated high school. And so college money, right?
Sure.
So college money is gone.
Yeah.
And I remember my dad, he stroked a check, whenever divorce is finalized and that good stuff. And he framed the check, like put it up in his office, and I saw the amount on it, and I was like, there goes college for me, right? Because I don't come from a lot of money, but grew up middle class and, always had aspirations to go to school and be a teacher, PE teacher, obviously. And so didn't really pursue college after that happened. And so out of high school, I'm working a job as a forklift driver.
Here, like locally?
Locally, yeah. I worked at Valley Building Supply, which is now shut down. And the Stanton one's still open, but it's not Valley Building Supply anymore. It's Cardinal Home or something.
Okay.
So I worked at Valley Building Supply, driving a forklift out of high school, unloading lumber, siding, all the stuff you would use to build a house, basically. And so working there, I graduated in June of 01, and September 11th goes down, 2001, while I'm working at Valley Building Supply.
Okay.
And so I remember being out on the yard on the forklift, and they call everyone in over the intercom. I go in the little shop we had there, and all we had was a radio. We didn't have a TV or nothing. We're listening to the radio, and they're saying how we're getting attacked and planes are flying into buildings, all that stuff. And I was just thinking, like, man, this is crazy. Like, this is absolutely crazy that this is happening right now. And for that whole week afterward, I feel like the U.S., we kind of came together, like, okay, we got sucker punched. What are we going to do about it? And to me, felt like there was something I could do about it. That, like, I'm young, healthy, I'm patriotic just as any other guy is right now in this time. And I had a friend of mine, he actually went down to the Navy recruiter before me and enlisted.
Well, that was going to be my question, which is, are you kind of doing this in a vacuum, or do you got a bunch of dudes that are kind of like, hey man, I think this is what we're going to do?
No, it was kind of in a vacuum. The Navy was never my plan. Like, the military was never my plan, but
no, PE teacher was the plan.
Yeah. So yeah, that was the plan.
That's not.
But when that plan fizzled, it was like, okay, now what? And so recent high school grad, here in the Valley, the options are factory work.
Correct.
I think in Stuarts Draft alone, there's 5 or 6 manufacturing facilities.
For sure.
Probably more.
Oh yeah.
15, 16 maybe.
Yeah.
So I guess the idea with the Valley and the Augusta County is you graduate high school, you go work in a factory somewhere. And that's just how it was back in 2001.
But yeah, I mean, it's a good job, steady pay,
Yep.
benefits. It checks all the blocks for a young person.
Right. And I think all my friends, their parents were factory,
Yeah, mine were like that.
Yeah.
Because I'm from a place kind of like this.
Right. And so factory work didn't seem appealing to me. Just didn't want to punch a clock 9 to 5, day in, day out, doing the same thing over and over and over and over just didn't appeal to me. So a friend of mine, he goes to the Navy recruiter and is telling me that he's enlisted, he's leaving to go to boot camp, and he's getting a signing bonus, and this back in the time when they had signing bonuses. And
Sure.
Well, yeah, it's because nobody wanted to be there, but everybody needed to be there.
Right. And so I go to the recruiter, and this is a little bit after 9/11. This is probably in maybe November. And so I'm sitting down with the recruiter, and he's like, "So what do you want to do?" Well, you can't be a PE teacher in the Navy.
You're saying there's no PE teacher option?
There's no option to be a PE teacher in the Navy.
Craziness.
That seems short-sighted. It seems like you'd have a huge swath of Christophers out there that want to come teach. I guess, isn't a drill sergeant a little bit like a PE teacher?
No.
No?
No. It's
Takes
like
a group of
it's like
people.
a middle school teacher.
I guess that's better.
Right. So the recruiter, he's like, "So what do you want to do?" And I was like, I like computers. I like, this was kind of when the internet was not in its fledgling state, but kind of taking off and becoming a new thing. And so I was like, I think I kind of want to work with computers and stuff like that. And he's like, "Would you be opposed to going on submarines?" And I was like, not really. He's like, "Well, you'll get more pay because there's sub pay. And when you go up for an advancement exam to get more rank, you only compete against the other submariners. You don't compete against the whole surface fleet."
And did that give you any indication at all of why they would pay? Because it's like, it would take me 2.5 seconds to be like, yeah, it's a cylinder underwater.
Right.
Way underwater.
Right.
And then 2, some of them have like a nuclear reactor inside.
Most of them nowadays. Yeah, we got away from the diesel boats from World War II, but
It's like I'm going to be underneath the water forever.
yeah. And so at this point, I know zero about Navy life. I know zero about the structure of the Navy, the overall like plan for the Navy. I don't know any of it. I just know like, hey, there's boats, there's ships out in the water. They have guns. They kind of they go around the world. They see foreign ports and all this. This sounds cool to me.
He said, "I played Battleship as a kid."
Right. And so then my recruiter, he's like, "So what about submarines?" He said, "It's all volunteer. Like they can't make you go submarines. It's all male at this time. There's no females on submarines." And so when he says like there's sub pay,
only dudes. He like check,
right,
check,
right.
check.
Not that I'm not down with dudes, but it seemed more appealing to me in the make money aspect of it.
Oh, for sure.
Right.
100%.
Like,
Right. I'm here to make money. I'm not here to play around, right?
So I'm 18 years old and broke. Like I need money.
Right.
And they're just at this point, maybe U-57 had come out. There just wasn't enough like, hey, this might be a bad idea to go in a submarine. There wasn't enough movies.
Right.
Like there was lots of movies about pilots, about tank guys. Like there was all sorts of stuff being like, I don't know if I want to fight the Germans, but
U-571, for Red October.
Yeah, like it was only a handful that would have been like pop culture would have said this might be a bad idea.
Down Periscope's a good one.
That's
probably
oh my gosh, that's awesome.
Probably the most accurate portrayal of submarine crew with the crazy antics and the characters and stuff. So yeah, I love that movie, Down Periscope. But so I end up enlisting as what they called back then SECF. It was Submarine Electronic Computer Field. So they had some jobs set aside in this field, but they don't know which one you're going to be in just yet until you kind of have some aptitude tests and stuff like that. And so before I even leave for boot camp and stuff like that, I had to take the ASVAB, which I'd never taken ASVAB before. I think I scored like a 75 or 80. So,
and for people that don't know, kind of I don't know if you've ever even explained ASVAB before, go ahead.
Yeah. So the ASVAB is a test that you take prior to entering the military that tests your vocational aptitude. So the VAB is a vocational aptitude battery, which battery is just a fancy word for test. And so it's not like vocabulary and reading. It's like, hey, these gears mesh together, and this gear turns clockwise and the other gear turns counterclockwise, and there's a third gear. Which way does it turn based on how it meshes with the other gears, right? So it takes a little bit of thinking, a little bit of knowledge processing. Those are the kind of questions on the ASVAB, like mechanical type stuff. And so I do well on it, well enough that I could go into this SECF field.
So 75 is
pretty good. Pretty good.
Cool.
Yeah, I think minimum score for enlistment is like a 30.
So are we throwing shade at Marines
We
as
could,
being
nah, we don't
just
throw shade at Marines.
30 guys?
I don't think they
Yeah.
have a numeric component. I think theirs is just you took it and you wrote your name correctly.
Zach did it
Yeah.
for us. We got it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We don't throw shade at Marines because Marines throw bullets back, right?
Well, they don't throw them, but so far at the Navy because y'all have to patch them up. So
That is
like,
true. That is true.
eh,
The Marines use our corpsmen, so
and you use them as bullet catchers.
yeah. So scored well enough to go into this SECF field, and so finally I get a boot camp ship date, and it's like, I think I went to the recruiter in November. My ship date was April 1st, so fairly quickly in the world of, I guess, getting in. And when I tell my family and all my friends and everybody, hey, I'm leaving for boot camp April 1st. Well, April 1st is April Fool's Day.
Oh,
Nobody
obviously.
believes me.
Yeah.
Nobody believes me that I'm leaving.
It's like, nah, he wanted to be a PE teacher. Remember when he told us that for years? That's all he wanted to do.
Yeah. So nobody believes that, hey, I'm leaving April 1st. And so I go down to MEPS in the time Richmond, Virginia. And sure enough, I leave for boot camp April 1st and get on the very first airplane ride that I've ever been on and fly to Chicago, Illinois, and because Navy boot camp's at Great Lakes, Illinois.
I can just imagine being like your parents, here you are packing your bags. You're like, okay, Mom, I'm going to boot camp. She's like, it's April 1st.
She's
Ha
like,
ha. Sure you are.
Yeah,
I'll see you in a few hours.
It's like, has anyone seen Chris?
Right.
Like he just never comes back.
Yeah.
Now, do you have any thoughts? Because you obviously, the call to serve is 9/11.
Correct.
But then you're going to go Navy.
Yes.
This has always confused me, and it did when we had Benita on, and she had talked about like a legitimate concern, right? They're in the Gulf, concerned that they're going to get shot at. And incorrectly or not, I'm like, by who? Right? Like if these guys are landlocked bad guys that are thousands and thousands of miles away.
Right.
So for you, it's I'm going to be in a submarine.
Yes. Underwater.
Doing what?
Right.
For 9/11? You know what I mean? Did any of those thoughts come through your mind at that time? Or it's just like, baby, I'm getting paid. Let's go.
So the thought there was, I'm getting paid.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm doing this for my country. Yeah. But I'm also going to get paid for it and stable. Every 1st and 15th, I'm going to get deposit in the bank account. Right.
And I ain't working a forklift.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that and I'm nowhere to spend it. So
True.
This is before Amazon.
True. So get to boot camp, which was wild.
So where in Chicago? Where in Illinois? I said Chicago.
It's in Great Lakes, Illinois.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's a literal city.
Yes. Yeah.
I don't know if you know this, but the Great Lakes are up by Illinois, and that's got me confused.
Yeah. So Great Lakes, Illinois is the city.
That's cool.
And there's some of the A schools, which when you graduate from boot camp, you go to what's called A school for your job, your rate that you're going to be in the Navy. Or some of the A schools are still there in Great Lakes, Illinois. So you could graduate boot camp and then just go right across the street to A school, which luckily for me wasn't the case.
Why luckily?
Because Great Lakes, Illinois in the winter just sounds terrible.
No, it doesn't just sound terrible.
So
my wife is from that area, and she would talk about lake effect snow.
Yeah.
Just being righteous.
I didn't look forward to it. And I lucked out going in on April 1st, springtime.
Yeah.
3 months later when I'm graduating, it's June. So just about starting to get hot.
Yeah.
And so, so graduate boot camp, had, typical boot camp experience, ran a lot, did a lot of push-ups, got yelled at, made it through.
Seems accurate.
Yeah. Fold your clothes this way, stay, eyes front, march, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Made it through. Graduate. Then I leave for what's called BESS, Basic Enlisted Sub School, which is in Groton, Connecticut. And so still at this time, I don't have a rate, like a particular job that I'm going to be doing. I'm just still SECF field. And so get to BESS. BESS is 3 weeks. And, you learn basic subsystems, how a pump works, what to do if there's flooding, what to do if there's a fire, just basic entry-level stuff.
Sure.
To be on a submarine. And so there was a show on MTV back in the late 90s, maybe, called Road Rules.
Okay.
They did all these challenges, like this group of people, they were on a Winnebago. They traveled around, did all these challenges. Well, one of the episodes, one of the challenges was they actually did the flooding trainer at Groton, which is part of BESS. And the flooding trainer, you're in a room, sealed off, room looks like a submarine engine room, and they start to fill it with water. There's pipes that burst. There's, just chaos.
Right.
Absolute chaos. You're in there, and the water's cold. They don't tell you that. It's like maybe a few degrees above freezing cold.
Well, because if you're deep underwater, right? I mean, I've been scuba diving, not that deep, but I've been scuba diving in the Pacific Ocean where I'm from, and man, you hit a thermocline, and it gets gnarly really quick.
Yeah. So BESS is there to kind of weed out the guys that, maybe aren't as fit for this type of work.
Because is this the first time that it starts to get really specialized towards submarines?
Correct. And at this point, I've still never set foot on a submarine. I just see them down on the pier and, okay, there's a submarine down there. But so we do the wet trainer, and they call this DC, damage control. So DC wet, and then we do DC fire. Same thing with the fire trainer. You're in a room, looks like a engine room, bunch of electrical panels on the wall, fire just everywhere, right? And it's propane fed, so they can shut it off at any time. But simulated fire, and do you panic or do you put the fire out and do your job, right?
Man,
yeah.
How much warning do you get?
You get a little bit of briefing, and they try to simulate it as best as they can. So they start with one guy, he's the watch, taking his rounds, doing his logs. Boom, fire in a electrical panel. So he has to call it away, fire, fire, fire. And then we kind of come in after that call with, the firefighting gear, and, there's different types of extinguishers for different types of fires, right?
Sure.
So part of that simulator is, hey, did we put water on an electrical fire? Because that would be bad. Now you just electrocuted yourself, right? Did you secure power to this panel before you fired? They have what's called AFFF, aqueous firefighting foam, and that's more for like oil fires that are down in the bilge and stuff like that. So did you put AFFF on an electrical fire, which will work, but it's not the most optimal way to do it. And so these simulators, they're as close to a casualty on a submarine as they can get without an actual casualty.
Are there actual casualties
in
the simulators?
Yeah.
I would imagine.
There are.
Right?
There are, yeah. So make it through BESS. So then comes A school. Then they sit us down. Okay, pick your top, rate that you would like to be in. There were 3 for me. There was Sonar Tech, Fire Control, and Electronics Technician.
You really liked the fire room, right? Like,
well,
for you,
this Fire Control is firing torpedoes, and
way cooler than being
a
a firefighter.
Yeah.
Okay. Got it.
So my top 3 were Sonar Tech, Fire Control, ET. So,
Yeah.
because Sonar Tech, those are the guys that are in the movies with the headphones, like what we got on now,
Sure.
and they're listening to the pings and okay, torpedo alert, right? That just seemed cool to me. Like that's the job I want to do. That I've been waiting to, put my name on, because it just, this is a job that's in movies. They make movies about this job.
But it's got to be such a job that is like literally is that one moment in the movie is a dude's entire 20-year career of listening to nothing.
Right. So I pick ST. Did well enough, I guess, in best that I think they went off like your ranking in your best class, like what job you got. And I did well enough in best that I got my first pick as Sonar Tech. So Sonar Tech A School is still in Groton, Connecticut. It's 9 months long. And because I had signed my enlistment for SECF, I had to add a year onto my enlistment for school. So enlistment was for 4 years, but because of SECF, I added a 5th year on.
And it's just because it's such a specialty?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So A School is 9 months, and I'm there from, again, I get there in June. So I'm leaving in like February, March timeframe of the next year. And
this feels like a long time. Is this a long time to be going through a school?
It depends, because I know, like, for me, 2 of the schools I went to, actually 3 of them were a year long at better.
Oh, okay.
And even like my EOD pipeline it was 9 months from the day you graduate from basic training if you do everything perfectly. And so no one meets that timeline, but
Right.
yeah. So there were periods between BESS and A School where we go into like a holding position, because there's not a lot of submariners coming from boot camp, maybe 20 a week, if that. Not a lot of guys sign up to be on submarines. So, and then not a lot of guys, right. And then not a lot of guys are going to the classes that I'm going to, like Sonar A School.
Right.
And so they're weeding out these guys. And so I go into a holding period for a while. And in this holding period, you're just useful bodies around the base, basically. You're picking up cigarette butts and the parking lot, and
you're on area
menial
beautification
work.
duty.
Yeah, and this is where you start to doubt, like, why am I doing this? Like, this is the most. And so, right about summertime, or in the summertime when I'm in Connecticut, the base decides to build a paintball field for like recreation for families on the weekends and sailors on the weekends when they have nothing to do in the barracks. Like, hey, let's build this paintball field. So I spent about 3 months or more building this paintball area,
And now you've built an entire career on building custom paintball fields for people.
No. And the thing is, they don't give us tools. Like, you would think, okay, we need to clear this land. Let's bring in like machinery. No, here's some rakes and shovels.
Yeah, no, you don't get an excavator.
Right. They don't trust,
No.
So yeah, we're doing this with rakes and shovels and just clearing hundreds and hundreds of yards of brush and debris, sticks, stones. And then finally we get it built. The Navy opens it like opening day, and they don't even let us like play on it for free, right? Like, we still have to pay to do it. And so that's just a part of like what holding can be. Like, you're doing these menial jobs. You're not really.
Oh yeah, I've been in holding status. I understand completely what it entails.
Yeah. So finally get out of holding, get into A School. We got enough guys for a class. STA School is, like I said, 9 months long. Did well. Graduated, I think, top 5 in my class. And again, where you finish is where you pick orders, where where you're going. So, so when it came time for me to pick orders, I was like, well, I want to stay on the East Coast because this is where I'm from. This is where my family is. My parents are, or my grandparents are getting older in age, and there could be some stuff with them where I may have to go home and stuff like that. And so when it comes for me to pick orders, there's the 2 classes of submarine at the time. There's the Fast Attack 688 Los Angeles class, which are the they go out, they do missions, they, recon, track bad guys, that kind of stuff. And then there's the 726 class Ohio ballistic missile submarine. So depending on which class of submarine determines basically your pace and schedule of deploying, because the fast attack guys, they're on the boat, they own the boat all the time. Whereas the ballistic missile guys, we call them boomers. The boomer guys, they're on a 110-day rotation with a whole nother crew. So they have a blue crew and a gold crew. And so I took that into consideration, like, hey, do I want to be one of these fast attack guys that's gone all the time? Or do I want to be a boomer guy and have this steady kind of rotation with another crew and maybe have some off time and family time and stuff like that? And so I wasn't even married at this time, but I was thinking ahead.
That's very forward thinking.
Yeah.
Because like 18, 19 years old, I'm going fast attack.
Oh, yeah.
10
I'm
times
going fast
out of
attack. And
10?
which one is the furthest away? I'm from
Right.
the East Coast. Is there one in Japan I can
Right.
get on?
That's exactly right.
So fast attack boats on the east, you're in, at the time, Norfolk and Groton, which I was already in Groton.
Right.
Okay, but I'm not staying here.
Not a lot of Groton listeners. I
Right,
think you
right.
can, if you want to on Groton, you're allowed to. Like but I get it.
Yeah.
It's like I don't need to see.
So the best option for me back then, I think, was boomer sub out of Kings Bay, Georgia. And so still on the East Coast, doing this rotational period with the other crew. And I get orders to USS Nebraska, blue crew. And two of my instructors in A school were from Nebraska Blue. And they're like, man, you're going to hate your chief. You're going to absolutely hate him. And I was like, well, I've never even met him. So how do you know I'm going to hate him, right? And so then, get orders to Kings Bay, drive down there, checking in with squadron. Well, at the squadron desk, when I'm checking in, there's a guy in a sling, he's got his arm propped up, Sonar Tech rating badge. And he's like, where are you going? I said, USS Nebraska, blue. Like, oh, you're going to hate your chief, man. He's like, I just came from that division, ST, same boat. I may have been his replacement, actually, now that I think about it. But so here's the third guy that doesn't even know me is telling me, like, hey, you're going to hate this guy. You're going to hate him.
You're feeling really good about all your life decisions.
Right. Like, okay. So check in with squadron, get assigned a barracks room, all that stuff, and get checked in with the boat because, the boat has an off-crew building, which is where, when you're not out to sea, you're going to the off-crew building. So I go check in with the off-crew building, and my crew, the blue crew, was already out to sea. They were out. So check in with the gold crew, tool around with those guys for a couple weeks, and then the gold crew yeoman chief, which yeoman's like the administration division. He comes to me, he's like, hey, pack your bag. You're going out to sea. Roger that. Okay. So had everything ready. I'm wearing my dress whites because, when you check into a new command, you wear your dress uniform and get down to the pier at like 0400 in the morning to take a small boat out to meet the submarine, right? And again, I've never been on a submarine up till this point.
That seems insane.
At all.
See,
Right.
I was imagining a helicopter. You're just getting on, okay, we're taking this Black Hawk out there, so hop on, and we're just going to...
No. We take a small boat, and I say small boat, it's like a tugboat, basically.
Yeah.
So we take this tug out, and there's two of my shipmates that are returning from like some kind of leave. They're coming with me to meet the boat, and they're looking at me. They're like, man, why are you in your dress whites? Like, do you know how dirty the boat is? Like, you are going to ruin this uniform, right? And so luckily one of them was like, as soon as you get down the ladder, change into, like, we call them poopy suits. They were overalls. And so that's what I did. We go across the brow. We see the boat off in the distance. We pull up alongside, put a brow across, and go across the brow. Well, then I get down the hatch, and someone sees my ST rating badge on my shoulder. He's like, hey, ST, come with me. And so I get to meet my division, who I'm going to be working with. And all that good stuff, and haven't met Chief yet, right? So I do meet what we call the chief of the boat, who is like the senior enlisted guy, and he's more in charge of like the enlisted crew and morale and welfare type stuff. So check in with him. He's like, "Oh, we didn't know you were coming. We don't have anywhere for you to sleep."
Winning.
Right.
Good start
Like
all around.
you weren't on a list. We didn't know you were coming. Why are you here?
Yeah.
Who are you? Where are you coming from? That kind of thing.
I can go, man. It's fine.
Yeah,
Don't worry about it.
Is that small boat still up there? Well, I can hop back. So didn't have a rack to sleep in. We do have one corpsman that's a crew member on board. His office has a observation bed in it. So he offered to sleep in his observation office bed, and I got his rack that I could sleep in. And the downside was under the rack, there's about 4 inches of space for your personal belongings, your clothes, your uniform, stuff.
A whole 4 inches.
4 inches. And I mean, 6 feet long, 3.5 feet wide, but 4 inches deep. And that's all the space you have for everything, basically.
And this is your first time on us. How?
This is day one.
How
day one.
is it? How? That seems insane. That seems insane to me. That
I'm
you're
just
not.
imagining you trying to lay in one of these submarine racks.
Well, yeah. Like, what are you talking about?
Right. So
Was there height requirements?
So
Minimums, maximums, obviously?
I don't think there was a maximum because I served with guys that were like 6'4", 6'5". The rack, I think, was engineered for a 6-foot man.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So
that tracks.
You're hanging off edges. You're sleeping with feet out to the side, stuff like that. And,
So is Air Force the only one that would have, like, for the fighter pilots that has, like, a height requirement or a maximum?
I mean, I don't officially know the answer to that, but I would think that for like highly specialized things like that, there would be a requirement.
You would think.
Yeah. So I think the newer boats are built for 6'4" man.
Huh?
Yeah.
Well, this sounds horrible so far.
So I have no space. Doc keeps all his stuff in the rack. He doesn't pull it all out to go to his office. And so while I'm trying to sleep, first couple of days on board, he's kicking me like, "Hey, get up. I need a pack of smokes out of my rack." Sure. Yep. So, and meanwhile, I'm living out of a sea bag. I've got, everything in my sea bag, which you've probably seen the green duffel bags.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. I'm living out of that. Like all my clothes, all my hygiene, everything is in that.
You are, I think, for sure the second, maybe the third person to tell a story that they've shown up to where they're supposed to report and nobody knows that they're supposed to be there and there's nowhere to sleep.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sounds very efficient.
Yeah.
So you're noticing a pattern.
I am noticing a pattern in our interviews so far.
Yeah. So, being the new guy, finally meet Chief. He's everything they said he was.
Swell guy.
He
Got
is
it.
Satan incarnate.
What makes him so bad?
Honestly, the guy, I think, had bipolar disorder.
Oh, gnarly.
Yeah. 100%. Best friend 1 minute, screaming your guts out the next minute, right?
Oh yeah, I could see being bipolar, being underneath the ocean,
And
being a
could be
trigger.
pressurized
Yeah.
cylinder underwater.
Yeah.
Holy
And
smokes.
so Chief at this point had probably over close to 20, probably over 20 years career. Could probably retire at any time he wanted. So
Just did it for the love of the game.
yeah, he's just yeah.
Oh my God. I can see your eyes, right? Your eyes are like you have all these memories that are cycling through really, really quickly of this dude that just chooses to bring hate
And
to every group.
And so the division I get to, we're all junior guys. Like everybody that got there before me was less than 9 months before I got there.
Which I'm sure Chief is just stoked about, right?
yeah.
Like I'm sure he just loves that.
He has a whole division of back then you're called. So I brought this emblem in, and this is a submarine warfare insignia.
It's the same insignia that's on your hat.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And so you earn this. You go through a knowledge board. Your whole first year on board a submarine, you're earning this, and it's every day 24 hours a day. You're studying. You have to learn ship systems, DC, which is damage control, firefighting, flooding control. We have hydraulic. There could be hydraulic leak, hydraulic burst. So you're learning everything you can about the boat so that you can be a member who knows what to do in an emergency.
Yeah.
On a submarine, 100% of the time you're underway on a submarine, your life is in someone else's hands.
I believe that.
Yeah. And until you can prove to the crew that you are trustworthy and you know what to do in a situation, you don't get these. You earn them.
Yeah.
So my whole first year on board, I'm studying, I'm learning, and I eventually have what they call a qual board, where you sit down with a qualified officer, a chief, a senior first class, forward and aft. So we call aft the engine room. So that's where all the nukes work. They make the ship go, basically. And so this qual board, you sit down before them after about a year of studying, which for me, it was a year. It could be 6 months, 9 months, depending on how hot you are, hot tracker, hot runner. But I'd like to sleep, so it took me the whole year, probably more. So I sit down in the call board, answer all the questions the best I can from my knowledge of the ship. And at the end, you have either you get your dolphins, which these are called dolphins. Yeah. You've heard them. People call them fish too, because they're fish. But the fish is actually a dolphin fish. So after your qual board, if you've done well enough, you're considered qualified, and you get to wear your dolphins, and you're at that point like a full-fledged member of the crew. Right. Like you're accepted. Hey, this guy's one of us. If you don't not wearing your dolphins, you're a nub, and the Navy has since said, hey, this is derogatory. We can't call our new guys nubs anymore, but you're still a nub. You're non-useful body is what you are. You're sucking up air. You're eating our food. You're not one of us, basically. Sure. Yeah. And so for a full year, this was my mission, was to get those.
To not be a nub.
Right. Because you're treated like the worst of the worst. You are not one of us. You are, and again, my chief, you're a nub. Until you get those, you're a nub to me. And which is fine. You learn your place quickly and within the crew and everything. And once you tack these on and you're a full-fledged member, life gets a little better. You can watch movies. Like if you don't have these, you can't watch movies on deck.
No, because you need to be studying.
Right.
Yeah. It's like being a pledge for a fraternity but for an entire year.
Yeah.
Or a walk-on.
And I didn't bring it, but there's actually what's called a qual card. And on your qual card, you get signatures. And each signature has points associated with it. And during your qualification phase, you're supposed to get so many points a week. And if you don't get those points, you go what's called DINK, delinquent. And so you don't want to be DINK. You want to be ahead of schedule. You want to be toward your goal, which is to get your dolphins. And so I get my dolphins. Actually, I'm probably the only guy that I know of that I did my qual board in Kings Bay. So, oh yeah, I forgot to mention this. I get to Kings Bay, check in, thinking I'm going to be there my whole enlistment. Check in with squadron, get to the gold crew guys and tool around with them. They say, oh yeah, we're doing a change of home port in about a year and a half to Bangor, Washington. I didn't know this. When was this going to be mentioned to me? Not when I was choosing Kings Bay and USS Nebraska.
That was
definitely on the East Coast.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So again, I do my qual board in Kings Bay. We do a change of home port out to Bangor, Washington, which at the way of the scheduling, the gold crew got to take the boat down and around South America and come up the West Coast. We got to drive across country and meet them out there. Yeah.
Not quite as cool.
Right.
Not quite as cool.
So 150 guys have to pack all their crap, their family, their cars, move all the way across country and meet the other crew out there and establish command out there. And that was fun. So 4 days with so I get married while I'm in Kings Bay.
With a lovely lady that you met in Kings Bay?
No. So I come home for Christmas leave one year, and my brother is working at the then Stanton Mall, which is now demolished.
It is. There's a big pile of rubble.
Big pile of concrete. So Stanton Mall, for one Christmas season, had a Spencer's Gifts store.
Okay.
One season, 1 year, that's all they had it. My brother is working at this Spencer's Gifts with my now wife. I come home for Christmas leave. He's like, hey, you have nothing going on. Spencer's is having a little store Christmas party. You should come. Okay. So I go and I meet my wife there. She's nice. We exchange phone numbers, keep in touch, that kind of thing. And then eventually I come home again and it's, hey, do you want to maybe get an apartment with me, like in Kings Bay? Okay. So pack all of her stuff into a U-Haul and drive her car and everything down to Kings Bay. We get an apartment and still living in an apartment, or I'm living in the barracks at the time. My wife is still just my girlfriend.
Right.
We're living in an apartment, but I didn't let go of my barracks room because, hey, if this doesn't work out, I can go back to the barracks and I still have a room there. And so we get married. We eventually do get married and
still keep the barracks room.
I still have the barracks room. So yes. So funny. So we're checking out of the base. So when you check out of an installation, you go around, get all the signatures. And I had to check out of the barracks because I never really did, right? So I go to the BPO, building petty officer. Hey, I have a barracks room. I'm with the Nebraska. We're going out west. I'm relinquishing my room, right? Give him the key. He's like, okay, well, I have to do an inspection first. I'm like, okay, well, it's clean. I cleaned it before I left. There's nothing in it except the bed and the bureau. But it's clean.
That's it.
Vacuumed everything. And
assuming you don't have a squatter.
Right. So me and the BPO go up to my barracks room, put the key in. It's like the electronic hotel key. Doesn't work. He's like, oh, that's odd. Well, he had a master key. He could just open any barracks room. So he plugs the master key in, opens the door. There's someone sleeping in the bed. Like full on sleeping, stuff on the wall. He's like, do you know this guy? I was like, I don't know this guy.
Never seen him before in my life.
This is definitely my barracks room, but I don't know who the hell this guy is, right? And we'll come to find out, I guess they had done an inspection, saw the room was cleared out, nothing in it. And they just said, hey, this guy just is not living here. And they gave the room to someone else.
Well, yes, because some other dude showed up.
Right.
And they didn't have a room. They didn't know he was supposed to be there. And they're like, all right, well, we got to pay for it.
Right.
Place for it.
So checking out the barracks was pretty easy because somebody was already in it. So move out west. We rented a house, me and my then now wife, sight unseen. Still the internet was a thing, but it was still kind of early in the internet phase. And we found a house online through, I think, Century 21 and saw, hey, this is a house. It had a jacuzzi,
a roof, walls.
Right. We don't have to live on base.
It has power.
Right. We don't have to live on base in the base housing. We can rent this place. And so we saw these pictures and we rent it sight unseen, basically, except for the pictures. And we get there and the jacuzzi had paint buckets and like trim and all kinds of stuff you would use to like maintain a house. And so we asked the lady, like, hey, this was supposed to be like part of the deal. Like, what's with all the paint? And she's like, yeah, the guy who owns the house, he's Navy and he's in San Diego or somewhere. And he just rents this out to, whoever.
He knows the deal.
Yeah. So we never got to use the jacuzzi, even though it was in the pictures and all this stuff. And
it has one. It doesn't say it works. It just says it has one.
There is one on premise.
Yeah. And so at this point, I think I did 2 or 3 patrols out of Kings Bay. And, I'm basically qualified in submarines. I've done a couple patrols. I've made 3rd class petty officer at this time, which third class petty officer is E4. You've probably heard of E4 Mafia.
Mm-hmm.
We were definitely E4 Mafia, and just a tight group of guys and getting yelled at by chief every day, and just forming that bond because we're all just in it together.
It sounds like just the world's finest amount of trauma bonding.
Yeah.
Especially because thanks to chief.
Yeah. And
well, that's synonymous across all branches. The
I would
E4 Mafia exists everywhere.
Yeah.
You are not the first one, nor will you be the last to reference E4 Mafia on this.
So work hard, party harder, that kind of thing. Most of us are married. All of our wives are cool, and they like to hang out when we're gone out to sea and stuff. They get together and do the wife thing. And so did a couple more patrols out of Bangor, Washington. And right about 6 months before the end of my enlistment, I find out that I've made E5. So a little bit more pay coming, a little bit more responsibility coming. And I'm really having to make this decision like, hey, do I want to stay in and do the career thing, or do I want to take my skills that I've learned in the Navy and go somewhere else and market myself and find a job and all that stuff? And
like move into civilian life.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And so my wife and I, we really didn't talk about it. I think she just kind of knew like, hey, you're done. Like you come home and you're hating chief. And I did eventually get another chief, and he was a million times better. But,
bipolar Jekyll or Hyde is the one guy.
The toxicity of the leadership had just run me down Navy wise. Like when I came to the boat, I was gung ho, man. Like I want to do anything and everything. And, the years wear on you, and you kind of learn like, hey, there's hierarchy to this, and you need to do this and you need to do that. And so it got to the point where, hey, I need to make a decision. Do I stay in or do I get out? And ultimately we were a young couple. My wife was 19. I was 21 when we got married. My oldest daughter was born in 2005. So toward the end of my enlistment, but still had a little bit of time left. And so we had a 1.5-year old daughter when it came time for me to make the decision. And I was like, hey, we're a young couple. We live thousands of miles away from any family. We now have a daughter, and like, is this the life we want? Do we want to be Navy, or, can I find a job somewhere else outside?
And what does the timing look like? Because you talked about these 110 days.
Yeah.
So you are gone, and then you are back for 110 days?
Yeah. So the 110-day rotation is, we have the boat as a crew for 110 days. So in that 110 days, we could do a 30-day patrol, or we could do, 90+ day patrol. And I think now the boomers have gone beyond 110 days as far as patrols and stuff like that. But back then I think it was 110 days roundabout schedule. And the shortest patrol I did was like 30 something days. And the longest was 89.
And when you are doing patrols, when you think about, because you've referenced it now a couple of times,
Yeah.
we went on patrol, did this, as you were making your way up through rank. What was one of the more memorable, because you're still the sonar guy.
Yeah. Yeah. So sonar, we're the eyes and ears, of the boat, because despite what people might think, there's no windows on a submarine.
Shocking.
Yeah, right. Oh, did you open the screen door on the submarine? Yeah, I sure did. Yep. So, we have the periscopes. We can go up, see around, that kind of thing. But for the most part, sonar is where, we detect objects that are around us, ships, boats, trawlers, fish, whales.
Yeah.
All that stuff.
Chris, I have to ask.
Yeah.
Are there aliens in the ocean?
No comment.
Come on. No way.
No. So I will say we were out to sea. I was standing watch, and we have what's called broadband, which is just the full spectrum of frequencies that are just coming in. Sounds like white noise, like your TV.
Sure.
And I'm sitting broadband, and I got the headphones on, and I get this very audible tone, like someone has taken a telephone, and just pressed one of the buttons on it. Beep.
Sure.
Kind of like that. We're out in the middle of nowhere. We haven't had a contact in days probably. And now we get this audible tone. It's about 2 seconds long, and then it's gone. We had no clue what it was.
But so what is that tone? Where would you normally hear that tone? If you are in an area to expect that tone?
It could, honestly, to this day, it more than likely was a biologic, which is what we call fish and whales and stuff.
Sure.
Because they chirp and they make the frequencies.
But you guys live with the headphones on all the time.
Yeah.
You would know the difference between a biologic and then a sound that doesn't make sense.
Right. That was just a sound that didn't make sense.
Did you ever hear that sound ever again?
No.
Not even once you are around a bunch of stuff that's going to make a sound.
Right. Never heard it again.
Interesting.
Yeah. And,
Clearly, obviously,
and
ladies and gentlemen.
I will say,
aliens.
coming out of Kings Bay, you heard of the Bermuda Triangle.
Obviously.
I crossed through the Bermuda Triangle many times.
No beeps.
No beeps.
Damn it.
Nothing.
Anything funky?
Not really. Not really. So the boomer mission, the entire purpose of a boomer submarine is what's called strategic deterrence. We carry what may or may not be nuclear headed missiles, and we are a deterrent against nuclear war.
Well, that's what it sounded like to me. When you were describing the two different boats, right, that you were essentially going to take, there was ones that are like, okay, those are the ones that are going to go fight.
Yeah.
But then when you described the one that was out, essentially forever is out, it sounded a lot like for that period of time where we had like those B-52 that were essentially just constantly circling the Arctic for 9 months at a time or whatever.
So strategic deterrence, boomer subs, we do what's called hide with pride. We go out.
Has that term evolved over time, or are you guys still like the pride thing?
I think it's still, the boomer mission is still the same today. And then we go out, we punch holes in the water, 3 knots to nowhere, hide with pride. Nobody knows where we are. That's the whole, point basically.
And so what involves actually being able to hide them? Because I would assume people have sonar, they have all these things to be able to see submarines that are cruising around, but you clearly are hiding.
Yeah, so we get mission from the powers that be, landside, squadron and subpack, sublant, all those guys. They give us a area in the ocean. Hey, be at this area for this specific time. We know you're there, but nobody else is going to know you're there. And, we check in, we send off radio. Hey, we made it. We're here, dive deep. We're gone again. That kind of thing.
So the answer is depth.
Depth plays a part.
Yeah.
Yeah. In sonar, there is, different effects of sound waves in the ocean. It's temperature, salinity, and pressure.
Sure.
So depending on the salinity of the water, the depth that is under you, the pressure that the sound wave actually moves through the medium of the water, all affects and plays part on your detectability and your ability to detect others. Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So in this, are you guys like looking for other people, or are you just like chilling out hiding?
We're chilling out, hiding. We generally know shipping lanes, like for freight going across, and we know that there's schedules, and for freight, they're just trying to get from point A to point B in the most economical way possible. So they have a steady rhythm and a steady beat. And they actually teach that in Sonar A school when you're learning, like, hey, what do these ships sound like? And so you're listening to cuts of audio and like, okay, yeah, that's, you're listening to these rhythmic beats, and you can determine like, okay, that's a merchant ship because it sounds like every other merchant ship out there in the ocean.
Right.
Oh, that'd have been terrible for me. I just went to sleep.
Well, that was where it was the joke of being like that one moment is the one moment in 20 years, because otherwise it probably is just trying to not fall asleep while you're the person that's supposed to hear.
And I don't know if you've seen the movie The Matrix with the green that kind of falls down the screen.
We're all millennials.
Yeah.
Chris, yes, we've seen it, but I understand.
Yeah. So that's what you're staring at. Broadband is all this noise coming in, and it's a green screen.
You're kidding. You're actually looking into the matrix.
You would think, but it's all green, and it's processing data, and it's all showing up as a waterfall display. Here's instant, here's averaged 5 minutes or so, and here's long-term average. So you're looking at all this data coming in, displayed like, okay, we have something down this bearing, and it's making a constant noise. So you're going to see that waterfall coming down.
So you actually get visual representation of sound as well?
Yes.
That's rad.
Yeah. And then what we also have is we can tow an array of hydrophones behind us, and so that we're not picking up our own noise.
Right.
And so it's thousands of feet or more behind us, and we're just listening to what's out there without us in the mix of everything else. And then so that was called the towed array, and we had 2 of those, and we had what's called a fat line and a thin line, and one was they were different capabilities for each, and just ways we can detect people, objects, trawlers, ships,
All right.
other submarines.
Right. Other submarines.
Yes.
Since you are a deterrent and may or may not have been carrying that deterrence, my
Right.
guess is that I would assume that part of your deterrence operation, there had to have been somebody that's also listening in case you guys have to be used. So it's like, because I feel like I remember a story for non-Americans, but it was for I think it was a Russian sub that was showing or indicating that nukes are in the air, and they had to make a decision.
Yeah.
Do we respond, or do we count this as a false positive?
Right.
And the dude ends up counting as a false positive, and it was. Obviously, we hadn't nuked Russia.
Right.
And essentially, it's one of those stories of this singular dude that was a sonar radar type operated guy stopped World War III from starting.
Yeah. So we can get radio traffic. We have a radioman crew, and so the signals that we can get from sublant or squadron, they basically determine, when we can go what's called battle stations, missile, and there's a message that we get, and then that message gets verified by 2 qualified officers, whether it's real or just not a fake message, but just not a launch message, basically.
Right.
So that gets verified by 2 officers, qualified officers, and then the captain also has verification of it. So we're getting these messages, we're receiving them all the time, and they're getting verified all the time, and that's basically what determines whether it's a real hey, let's pop top and blow something up, or if we're just, hey, business as usual kind of thing. But luckily, with our payload and what we may or may not carry, that's what keeps China and Russia, the other nuclear capable powers, from doing what they do.
Do you ever have a moment where it's almost an oh moment?
No, not in my career. I mean, 5 years that I was, in submarines, I don't think we ever did.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it would be nationwide news if something like that went down. And
well, I mean, just it was almost.
No.
Obviously, I think it'd be global news.
Right.
If we've shot off a nuclear warhead.
Yeah. Now we do test them. We do test our capabilities. And
what was that like? Where? What was that like?
So, they have these tests where it's an empty payload. We're not launching an actual nuke, right?
Right.
But we have a missile on a boat. We call them boats. And it could be outfitted with just, instruments that calculate data and stuff like that.
Right.
And so they'll do a test launch. It's called a FCET, FCET. Couldn't tell you what it stands for.
Sure.
Never did one. But yeah, a boomer can go out and launch a missile, and it goes up into space. And that's how the missiles work. They go up into space, and then we can drop the payload basically anywhere we want globally.
Chris, I would not have assumed it goes into space.
Yep.
That's one of the most badass things ever.
Yeah, I wouldn't have assumed that either.
Yeah.
That rules.
Yep.
Now, are you shooting it from underwater, or do you
Shooting
have
it
to come
from
up
a
top?
determined depth.
Gnarly.
Yeah.
So yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's videos on YouTube of a missile launch, nuke missile launch from a submarine.
Well, know what John's doing after this.
That rules.
It's cool. It's cool.
Yeah, everything about this is
Yep.
cool, other than having to live in a submarine.
You see ocean, you see a little ripple, and you see a missile just take off
into space.
into space.
That's
Yep.
terrifying. No wonder that's a deterrent.
Yeah. I joke, but if honestly World War III, like nuke on nuke, takes longer than 45 minutes, we've done something completely wrong. Completely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
so we have officially shot a nuke from under the water into space, and then it has come back and hit whatever in 45 minutes.
dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's terrifying.
That could be an exaggeration, but
I mean,
the concept is real.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, whether it's 55 minutes or 45 minutes is neither here nor there. Yeah, that is a terrifying prospect.
It's scary.
Yeah.
And the other caveat is when a boomer sub is at sea, we are the third most powerful entity in the world, behind the U.S. and Russia.
That's a gnarly way to think about it, too.
Yeah. So the captain of a boomer sub, he's
A bipolar psychopath?
that was my chief. The captain.
Oh, excuse me.
The captain. They get screened and certified and all that stuff. But
so what you're saying is that dude has a set of brass nuts.
yeah, because potentially, there is a trigger
Right?
with the missile system. That trigger pull, you got to have the cojones to say, yes, I'm about to obliterate whatever it is the president wants me to obliterate, because the order comes from the president.
Yeah, that's why everybody gets squirrely about who that guy is.
Yeah.
Well, that's super cool. Like terrifying, but awesome all at the same time, right? Like at the end of the day, it's now I would assume there's bad guys, right? Or other countries, right? They have the same capabilities. Boomer subs.
Somewhat. Russia was, of course, you've heard of the Cold War and all that, and Russia ramped up their sub capabilities 70s and 80s. We've all seen the movies about Russians going rogue and so that was the Cold War during the 80s and all that. Like I served with guys that were Cold War veterans, and they were like, yeah, we were out to sea and you go rig for super ultra quiet, and where you're not even wearing a watch on your wrist because your watch could fall and hit the deck and make a noise potentially.
I was hoping you were telling me that the second hand was making too much sound. I'm like, yes.
You
Super
hear
ultra
stories
quiet.
like, yeah, we had to go super ultra quiet, and like you're basically just standing watch and then going straight to the rack after watch because they don't want anybody on deck and
Walking around in socks.
Yeah,
That's also what I thought. That's
Yeah.
what I figured too.
Yeah, so we don't wear the boondockers or the boots that are Navy standard out to sea. We wear tennis shoes basically because they're more comfortable, and we're our own command out to sea basically. So the captain can say, yeah, I authorize patrol shoes, and we can grow beards and stuff like that.
Yeah, I was going to say it is completely and totally your own rules.
Yeah.
Which it could be good and bad, but the reality is that, like you said, if you're the third most powerful entity, whatever that captain decides, like it's the
Yeah.
The law.
So what's
Yeah.
the movie with Denzel and Gene Hackman, Crimson Tide?
yes,
That whole movie was, I think the captain, Gene Hackman, is determined that he's going to launch a nuke, and
That's right.
Denzel has to step in. It's like, no, we're not. Yeah. So it's fiction, but
It's within the realm of
it could be
possibility.
within,
Is it though?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's well, you're stacking bad news of possibilities here.
Yeah.
Space nukes from a crazy captain.
Yeah. So did 7 patrols, get out of the Navy eventually. We did decide to that I would end my enlistment and get out of the Navy.
Right.
And so when it comes time for me to leave, the cycle with the 110 days, there's not a lot of time you can take leave and go, have a family vacation and stuff like that.
Oh, because even if you're not on the 110-day cycle,
Yeah.
that other off cycle, you're still.
Yeah, we're doing training, we're doing
Right.
simulations. We're doing out of that 110 days off cycle, there may be a week that 5 days we could take some leave and have a family vacation or something like that. So,
Whoa.
yeah, so I didn't have a whole lot of time to take vacations and whatnot. So when I got time to separate, I had like 50 something days of leave that I sold back to the Navy when I separated. And of course they paid me for it. Like, your leave is your leave and you sell it back.
I'm sure your wife loves to hear about all that leave that you just left on the
Yeah. I mean, we tried, we did, I will say, okay, I'll take it back. We did go on one vacation. We went to Hawaii actually while I was active. And the only reason we did is because I had my buddy that enlisted before me from high school. He was in Hawaii. He was stationed in Hawaii.
Yeah.
So we went to visit him and his wife at the time. And so get out of the Navy, come home. I didn't get any house hunting leave or job hunting leave, which is typically the norm when you separate, and didn't get any of that. And didn't have a place to live. I lived with my in-laws for like a couple months. They had the space and everything. My first job out of the Navy was actually with a company here in Waynesboro called Shen Valley Security at the time. And it was installing Brinks security systems in homes and fire suppression systems and stuff like that.
You seem outrageously overqualified.
I thought so. Yeah. Here I am. I was, working sonar on this nuclear submarine, and I get out and now I'm installing like, glass break detectors in some guy's garage, but it was a newer company. Like the owner, he hadn't had a clientele base built up yet.
Yeah.
For that, for the work here in the area. So I was getting paid $100 per install, which was beans, basically. Like, I'm married and I'm married at this time, have a daughter that's about 2 years old now, and trying to raise a family and can't do it because I'm not making enough money. And
Yeah.
so leave that job. I applied at the post office to be a rural carrier with the post office, federal job and benefits and
Sure.
go take the tests for the post office. Crickets. Heard nothing for months, or about a month. And so this whole time I'm like, I need a job. I need to do something. There's got to be something. So I applied at Lowe's in Stanton.
God damn it, Chris.
Veteran friendly company, right?
Sure. Yeah. All positive things.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking about the nuclear sub guy, but keep going.
Yeah. So I applied to be a delivery driver for Lowe's. And so end up delivering washers, dryers, refrigerators for what I thought was going to be a temporary, like, holdover job. Like, hey, this is just what I need to get my feet back under me and potentially get a house and raise my family and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
ended up working at Lowe's for 7 years.
7 years.
7 years. And so it paid the bills. It put food on the table, but it wasn't, glamorous or.
Yeah. Not a, I would imagine, not a career.
Right.
Like,
Yeah. I love the people there. They were all awesome. But it's kind of stuck in retailville. You know what I mean?
Totally.
And so my wife's father, he was divorced from my mother-in-law and met a woman. They got married. She worked for a defense, Department of Defense agency.
So this is where my mind goes.
Right.
Like, my mind would go, if you're a dude that does this thing, how are you not working for the government?
Right.
How are you not in DOD? How are you not doing Pentagon type stuff? Like
Right.
that feels
Oh,
like
yeah.
would be way more.
So,
your
so
niche.
my big thing was I wanted to come back to Virginia and
Yeah.
be around family and be around what I was familiar with.
Family
And,
screws all those things up so much.
yeah, I learned.
Just-
I learned the hard way.
No.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah,
Chris.
yeah. So come back to Virginia, and my wife's father is married, and this my now mother-in-law, she's working for a DoD agency in Pennsylvania, and she was at Picatinny Arsenal for some time, and her agency moved her to Toby Hanna Army Depot, which is just a little army base in Pennsylvania. And she and I, through talking, she's like, "Hey, you're a vet, and my agency, we love vets. Like, we hire them all the time, and we have this internship program that I think you would be excellent for, right?" And so I look into it, and so the agency is called DCMA, Defense Contract Management Agency. It's a Department of Defense agency. It's funded by all of our tax dollars and everything. And so looking into it, their whole mission is to manage contracts that these companies and suppliers supply to the DoD, basically.
Got it.
So
yeah, supply line.
right,
Yeah.
And so the biggest buyer of stuff is the United States. The American taxpayer buys anything and everything.
Right.
You probably don't know about it, but your tax dollar goes to it. And so I put in for this internship, and they do it twice a year. And the first go round, I didn't get picked up for it. They were like, "Sorry, you don't have a bachelor's degree. You didn't qualify," all this stuff. Well, I later found out from my mother-in-law that to do quality assurance for the DoD, you do not need a bachelor's degree. You just need, high school diploma and the willingness to learn, I guess, the trade, right? So the second term for pickups of the internship come around, I apply again and get picked up for the internship on the second go round. I guess somebody got into somebody's ear somewhere and said, "Hey, he's applying for QA. He doesn't need a college degree to be QA." And so they looked at it the second go and got picked up for, it's a 3-year internship called the Keystone Program. And basically at this time, I'm still working at Lowe's, but I've transferred from Stanton Lowe's to Lexington because I'd taken a higher sales job, I guess you want to call it. And I was there for 3 weeks, and I told the manager there, "Hey, I got a government gig, I think, coming around, and I'm going to be leaving." So he was cool with it. He's like, "Yeah, no problem. Like, we understand. Got to do what you got to do for you." And so get picked up for this internship. It was they call it a 7-9-11. Basically, your first year in the internship, you're a GS7. After 1 year, if you're successful and follow the program, you're a GS9. At the end, when you graduate, you're a GS11. So like fully ready to run with your peers and your other coworkers at a GS11 pace. And so the whole Keystone program and the internship, it's all basically learning quality assurance for the government. And it's we're looking at anything and everything that could be manufactured by a facility, from clothing and textiles to mechanical gear, electronic gear. And we call them commodities, like clothing and textile commodity, mechanical commodity, electronic commodity. And so getting out of the Navy with, sonar experience and electronics experience and stuff like that, I had the electrical commodity basically on equivalency when I joined the DoD.
Yeah.
They're like, "Hey, this guy knows electronics. He can go look at widgets, twidgets, and
Oh yeah.
kind of has a general idea of how it's supposed to work and stuff like that." And so I get spooled up, and after I finished my internship, I was doing it out of Northrop Grumman in Charlottesville.
Sure.
That's where my office was. So I tell people I worked at Northrop Grumman, not for Northrop Grumman.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because everybody's like, what do you do there? Like, what who do you work with? And I could name off people that worked for Northrop Grumman, but I didn't work with them. I worked,
Right.
coincided with them. And so,
And are we getting into the realm of like NGOs and all this kind of stuff?
NGOs,
Non-government organizations. These are the ones that like are able to do the bidding of the government and not in the name of the government. So it seems like you're kind of in this, what sounds like this in-between space that allows you, and you're providing a very particular service.
Right. And so the whole time I was active duty, and I didn't have a clue that DCMA was even a thing. Like there's people, civilians out there that are looking at these products and stuff we use for us on our behalf. And, they're the ones that say, yeah, it's good, send it out, or no, it's bad, fix it on our behalf, and we're using this stuff daily out to sea.
Right.
Yeah. And so with Northrop Grumman, their whole thing is navigation systems for the Navy out of that facility.
Sure.
And so having a little bit of Navy background and going in there and now inspecting navigation systems that are going to ships and submarines.
That's cool.
It is, yeah.
It's like full circle.
Yeah. And so there were parts and pieces that I was signing off that were going to submarines that, I know exactly where that gets mounted on the sub. I know exactly what it does and what it provides and all that cool stuff.
Yeah, and you know how important that is that it works.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
That's the most crucial
once it
element.
gets there.
Yeah. And so one of the programs over in Northrop is the DDG class destroyer for the Navy, the steering system. So turning the rudder left and right. That whole hydraulic system is made in Charlottesville and gets signed off by DCMA.
And I imagine part of QA is also making sure that just the stuff that's coming in, if it's coming from another country, to make sure it's on the up and up.
Correct. And so, so I started the internship in 2012, and so it's now 2026. So I've been doing QA for the government for about 14 years. And so I've seen some stuff, and one of the things I've seen, I won't get into all the particulars of it, but we had a contractor here in the Valley, gets a contract because he is an immigrant, because we have set aside contracts. Like, we want to have money for minority owned, women owned, veteran owned.
Right.
We've heard about these types of things.
So we have money set aside for these type of opportunities. So this guy gets this opportunity, and it's an army order. And
there we go. We had to be the ones that f*** it up.
No, it wasn't the Army's fault. The Army cuts this contract, and they say, hey, we want to buy this item from this specific brand.
Right.
And this is what we want. Well, this guy gets the award for this item. He's not a distributor of this item, so he gets a protest of the award from his competitor. And the Navy, or at this time, my agency has said, hey, this is low dollar, low risk. We give it back to the Army. So the Army is managing this order at the time. Well, the protest comes along. Hey, there's some risk here. They kick it back over to our agency. So I get this order I get to be the QA on this order about 9 months after the award of the contract. So I'm playing catch up. And so reach out to the guy. Hey, send me all your purchase paperwork. Where are you buying this stuff? Where are you getting it from?
Because he doesn't have it.
He did, but it was coming from China. So here the Army said, hey, we want this part, this brand, this part number, specific. Can't really mess it up. This guy messed it up. He was buying it all from China. It was already on a ship coming into the port of Baltimore, I believe, when I found out about it. And so I reached back out to the contracting officer for the Army. This is what I found. I'm not signing off any of this. You're probably not going to get this item for the foreseeable future. And the Army said, okay. And they issue what's called a cure letter. It says, hey, you have 10 days to provide, conforming product, or we're canceling this whole order.
Right.
Which at the time, it was a 5-year deal worth about $500,000 for this guy.
Dude.
And they said, you have 10 days to comply. And he couldn't. Of course, he couldn't comply. As soon as the email hit his inbox, he was calling me, Chris, what's up? What do I do? I'm like, sorry, man, you knew what you were doing. And I told you from the beginning, like when I found out about it, I told you like, hey, we're not accepting this stuff. So, and
Could you imagine if he ends up installing a bunch of like Chinese product? Like, there's no way China doesn't know what's up.
Yeah. So I thought about this, like, if this thing makes it to the hands of the people that have to install it, they're going to look on it and say, it says made in China right on it. Like, why are we putting this Chinese made, for lack of better words, piece of shit into a lethal weapon system that could or could not need to operate at the most critical time for these guys? And because a guy in the field signed it off, it's now a piece of crap, product that says made in China on it, on an American weapon system.
Because money was set aside for a particular demographic to win a contract.
Correct.
Like, it's just like this potential snowball effect that just could be catastrophic.
Yeah. But not to toot my horn, but I caught it. Those products did not make it to our war fighters out in the field.
That's what's up.
Yeah. And then I got a call from Army Criminal Investigative Service.
For this order?
For this order.
I bet you did.
And the guy reaches out to me. He's like, hey, what do you do? Who are you? What's your role in all this? So explain all that. And he's like, yeah, you did the right thing. Like, he's like, this guy's name has come up before, actually. And
no way.
Yeah. And so we kept that product out of the supply chain. Well, I did.
It makes you wonder how many times this dude had been awarded contracts.
Yeah. Well, there's other, and how it is nationwide on a national scale, even globally scale, really. Like, who are these bad players that are selling crap to the American public and getting away with it?
And getting away with it.
Yeah.
Because there's no way, like, you caught it.
I did.
And that's awesome.
Yeah. But who's not catching it?
Right.
Yeah. And some of the contractors that I work with now, I explain to these guys, most of them are squared away, like almost 99% of them are squared away. They've worked with the government before. They know our deal, why we're coming in and inspecting their product and stuff like that. And, but it's always that 1% that you have to look out for.
Oh yeah.
Always.
Yeah.
Yeah. 1% takes up 99% of your time.
It does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So here's you a question for our other listeners who are, maybe my age, that are getting out or have gotten out, don't have any employment or anything. So does that internship still apply to DCMA?
It does. Yeah. So there was a period of time where we were on a hiring freeze, which happens a lot within the government.
No.
Yeah. Depending on the administration and
Sure.
needs of the the agencies and all that. So as far as I know, the opportunities are still out there. My agency in particular, we hire through USA Jobs. If you don't have USA Jobs on your bookmark, at the top of your
browser,
I would highly recommend putting USA Jobs up there. Build a resume, which is what I did. I built my resume. You may not have a lot to put on a resume, but that's okay. Because when I got out of the Navy, it was Valley Building Supply,
right?
Navy, Shin Valley Security, Lowe's,
right?
That was it when I put it on my resume for the government. And but you learn a lot of skills throughout that whole deal, right? Like, even though I was working at Lowe's, I had to learn how to work with people.
Yeah,
I had to learn how to deal with time management, load management, that kind of thing.
And QA, like you said, didn't require a bachelor's degree.
Correct. Yep. And basically doing the internship is how I learned the QA job, and their standards and systems to like all these major players, factories out there. You've probably heard of ISO certification, which is it's basically ISO 9001 is the quality management system certification. And so You may see like products that say, hey, we're ISO certified.
Well, and that's the only reason why I know what you're talking about, because I feel like I've seen that exact emblem.
You've probably seen it on like mattresses and stuff like that. Hey, we have ISO certified mattresses over here. It just means that they met a certain criteria for quality. And the certification is facility wide to that factory. So it means every part has a place in the certification of that product. And so ISO is a big thing in my job where, the contracts that are awarded, most of them will say this contractor needs to be ISO certified or ISO compliant is another one that I see. And so that ensures that their quality management system meets certain criteria that, hey, they're buying the correct material to even make the product. They have trained personnel doing jobs that, they've been trained to do. And one of the analogies that we use, we don't have the janitor like making the widget, basically.
Right.
Yeah. Nothing against janitors. I was a janitor in the Navy for a while.
Oh, we were all janitors, landscapers, dishwashers.
Yeah.
Well, Chris, I love this.
Yeah, man.
I love that that you're not still working at Lowe's.
Nope.
Right. That's a really, for me, of like what you shared for the background and then coming into this.
Yeah.
And Zach, I really like to call out because again, it's having these clear paths where to save a guy that's working for the security system and now is working at Lowe's, and it's kind of like there just isn't a gig yet.
Yeah. I will say I got extremely lucky in my ordeal of getting out and to where I am now. I would say a lot of luck played into it as well.
And you're a damn good test taker, obviously, Chris.
Yeah.
You every opportunity you get to be able to do a thing, you end up crushing it, which gives you more opportunity.
Right.
Well, that's awesome, man.
Appreciate it.
Thanks for being on.
Yes, sir. I thank y'all for having me. It's great what y'all do.